Sugar Bear. It's a great name. I wish my graffiti name was Sugar Bear, but it's not. So Sugar Bear was a graffiti writer in the late 1960s in Philadelphia. He also happened to be the leader of a notorious gang, 12th and North. And in a recent interview, he gave a really beautiful and quite telling quote. When asked about his youth, he said, "When you're young, you got like 10 hearts in your chest." And I was really struck by that because I can remember quite vividly around 5th grade, me and my best friend John feeling exactly like that. The problem was we had no place, we couldn't find a place to channel this energy. We couldn't find the proper outlet, whether it was traditional education, sports, you name it. We just wanted to assert ourselves and be able to grow and achieve and put that energy somewhere, and we couldn't find it. And sparing you a bunch of dark and dramatic stories, I don't want to sensationalize this, so I'll just say, all we could find was we could be really good at being really bad. And it's just, unfortunately, this created a very negative cycle, which is hard to break. And for my friend John, he wasn't able to break it, and he's still serving a lengthy prison sentence. Me, I was very fortunate to have mine broken by, of all things, something that can also land you in prison and is seemingly bad graffiti. So to keep it light, I'm going to go back to a very, I think transformative would be the best word, time in my life when I was kind of rebuilding my identity through graffiti. So at this point, I would have been about 13, 14 years old. This would be a school night, about 11:30 at night. I've been sitting in my bed, it's pitch black, staring at the ceiling for about an hour, waiting and just listening. And I can hear the elevated train about a half block away calling my name, the cars on the street, but that's not what I'm looking for. And then all of a sudden it strikes. My dad's snoring, and he had this earth-shattering, like window-rattling snore, sorry, Dad, that he got me back because I think it's hereditary, because I now snore this way as well. But this was my clue that under the guise of his snoring, he was asleep, and at least he would cover me so that I could sneak out of the house. And I would start this long, arduous trek to get out of the house. And it was long because it was a great house I grew up in, but it was old, rickety, crickety, everything creaked and moaned. So it might take me about an hour and a half or so to get out of the house. And the funny thing about this, it's so ridiculous, but as I'm looking back now at this long process where I'm slowly, carefully, patiently opening doors, walking down the hallway, I actually exemplified these things that I didn't know I had I don't think I had at that time. Patience, discipline, I was very calm, I was very determined. And so finally, I don't know, like 15 minutes in, I get, down the hallway to my arch nemesis, these stairs. And these back stairs they hated me and my brother because we beat them up. We ran up and down them all day, every day. So they creaked and moaned, and they hated me. So a lot of times I'd get caught on these stairs as somebody wakes up or has to go to the bathroom, and I might be stuck there like this for a good 20 minutes, waiting for the snoring to resume in this stalemate, and it's pitch black, and I'd start this dialogue with the stairs, "Hey, please don't tell on me, I promise I won't, run up and down you anymore, and I promise I'll put my weight on the walls as to not put weight on you," and then the walls start creaking, and it was this ridiculous whole thing. Anyways, hopefully I'd make it all the way downstairs to the basement, and this is where the real ritual began. This is where, mind you, this is early 90s, pre-cell phone. I can't call my buddy's house at this hour of the night, so everything had to be calculated far in advance. We'd have to get together, whether it was at crew meetings weekly at Harold Washington Library or the McDonald's on State Street, and we'd have to plan out these highly collaborative, purposeful, strategic missions of this is what we're going to paint, This is how long it's, how long it's going to take to get from this station to that station, yada, yada. And my responsibility in this, we all had our own kind of strategized responsibilities, but mine would be packing this paint. I had a great stash spot where I could keep my crew's paint in my basement. My parents wouldn't know. So I'd have to sift through how many cans are we going to need, what color, do we need the rope to get up there because it's really hard to climb. So you got to climb up and then pull it up with your bag up with the rope after. And again, I was exemplifying these skills that I either didn't know I had or that I was learning at the time. So finally, I'm getting out of the house, and this is where a new set of skills comes into play. And this set of skills is basically I need to become invisible to the world around me, because at the end of the day, I'm a 13, 14-year-old kid with a bag of spray paint, out after curfew on a school night with a criminal record. So I have to become invisible. And we learned this by basically studying people, observing body language, how you're perceived, facial features, what you say, how you act, all these kinds of things. You create this cloak of invisibility, this inner choreography, you put it on, and you're out into the night. Hop the train, get up there. That makes it even worse because you're on the train with K9, Vandal Squad, the CTA workers, etc. So you have to be really invisible. And if you get so lucky that you make it to the train station, say it was, we designated 1:30 at Belmont Station or 1:45 at Argyle, this is when it gets really good. And this is where you're able to, now, you got there, you meet your partners, you hop off the station, and you're free. And you're running these tracks that are 20, 30 feet in the air over the city. You have electrified third rails, which if you touch them, will kill you. You have trains, you have gangbangers on stations, you have the Vandal Squad after you, you have all these things, other riders. And for me, it was really revolutionary because for once in my life, I had power and control. I had complete control over the most fundamental things. And most rudimentary things, literally my life and my freedom. And I cannot tell you how electrifying, no pun intended, not from the third rail, but electrifying this was, because going from a kid that feels like he has no power and no control to all of a sudden being in complete control, you are so turned in and tuned on. It's like, at school, traditional education, it felt like if I was told, hey, you can't touch fire. Fire's hot. And memorize that and then say it back to me backwards in a different language. It didn't make any sense to me and it didn't have any relevance. But graffiti put me in the realm where I was actually in the room with the fire by myself to navigate that situation. And it was really powerful for me because I was able to learn, I was empowered to learn hands-on from the elements. I could tell you the hue of that fire, what the smoke smelled like, what it tasted like. And then I got so turned on that I could figure out which way the wind blew and all these sorts of things that I think I was realizing this is the way I needed to learn. Traditional education didn't allow me the proper avenue to learn. Graffiti did. So once we're down there, we're running tracks, what are we doing? We're on our mission. This is interesting as well because on our mission, it's very simple. You're out to paint your name as big and bold and colorful or beautiful or stylistic as humanly possible. And it's really simple because it's this like, it's this declaration that you exist. I'm here. If you felt invisible in your life prior, you no longer had to feel that way because you had this Superman persona, this alternate identity that you could go out and declare yourself onto the world. I'm everywhere. I'm omnipresent. You have to see me. You have to deal with me. I exist. And this is, the Superman aspect of this alternate life where you can create this new identity for yourself really starts to seep into your real life. And all of a sudden you become hyper confident. And I'm this confident person with these skills. I can achieve this. All the stuff I thought not possible is now possible. And so it was a very transformative time, as I said before. And I think this act of painting and this re-engineering identity is interesting because so much of early education, for me at least, was I'd already deemed myself, a failure, learning disabilities, couldn't achieve. So all I had left was my identity. And in school, could be a really cruel place. It was for me, where all these kids are vying for, I think you need a strong foundation of who you are before you can learn about the world. And as you're trying to figure out who you are and navigating that, there's so much finger pointing and I don't want to be picked out of the crowd. I don't want to be different because then I'll be made fun of, I'll be ridiculed, so I'm going to point you out, et cetera, et cetera. And it can be, I feel like, really damaging and to the spirit of a young child, and to especially nurturing an independent spirit. So here's some good examples of school, my traditional school versus my graffiti school. One day I showed up to school and I'm wearing my big brother's hand-me-down jeans. And these hand-me-down jeans had the holes in them, and my mom used to iron on the patches, the iron-on patches that would inevitably come off after a day. And my friends and peers were ridiculing me to the point of real embarrassment and torment. And go on the record, I didn't grow up on food stamps or, poor. Thriftiness and frugality was a part of my, it was a part of my family life. And because my mom was rad and she believed in, she was green friendly before it was cool, and she believed in reuse. My last name's Nichols, so my wife calls us the Thrifty Nichols. It was also, because, I guess it was also, to be honest, she was raised Quaker on a farm, and to me that's a beautiful thing. It was in her religion and in her culture, and that should be cherished and nurtured. But when you're a kid and you're vying for who you are and your identity and all these kind of things, there's a very crushing thing that can come down on you during this time of ridicule. Another example is race. Me and my best friend John, he was black, I was white. So we were called all sorts of things, Oreos, reverse Oreos, you name it. I don't even understand half the stuff we were called, but, and sometimes we couldn't hang out. We were alienated because we couldn't always hang out with all, white kids or all black kids because we were mixed up. And this sort of alienation, is really damaging to a spirit of a young child. So I'll give you an example of how that operates in my graffiti life. In graffiti life, especially my crew at the time, we were from all over the city, literally, and we're talking 12-year-olds to 17-year-olds. We're from all over the city. We're from different walks of life, different races, different backgrounds. None of it really mattered, and it doesn't. I could go to South Africa, I could go to China today, and I guarantee you I have family there because we're unified in this, and all those traditional boundaries that you grow up in the world with totally get annihilated with graffiti. There's no need for them, and it doesn't matter, and that's a beautiful thing. So in terms of how I showed up to go paint, nobody cared what I looked like or if I was wearing, my brother's old jeans. And if I needed new jeans, I'd have an older mentor writer in my crew that would take me, risk his situation, and teach me how to rack or steal new jeans. But the cool thing is, then I honed my craft, and with honing my craft, I would then hand that down to the next generation. I would mentor another guy. The even better part of it with race is like, we used it to our advantage. Say I'm out racking with George, and we realize, okay, these shop owners are inherently racist. Great. George is the diversion, and I'm over there like a kid in the candy store getting George's clothes, my other friends' clothes. So the really cool part about graffiti for me, especially at the time, was what did we do with our anger and frustration? I think we're all painfully aware of angry, frustrated youth and ones that are looking for power and voice. And for us, we turned it towards inanimate objects. The crew I was in at the time was TMS. So we had acronyms like trains must suffer or transit must suffer. You know, it sounds really horrible, but like, what are you doing? You're putting that anger creatively against a train with colorful spray paint, you know? And for me, it's hilarious and beautiful. I'd much rather see a kid trying to find power and voice in his life by picking up a can of spray paint rather than picking up a pistol and pointing it out towards other human beings. So, you know, at the end of the day, like, I am not condoning graffiti. I'm not sitting here saying we should put graffiti in the public school curriculum or anything like that. I'm just saying, flat out, it saved me. I live an amazing life now. I've been all over the world. I've achieved more than I've ever thought in my wildest dreams. I've been really blessed and fortunate because of graffiti and the foundation it gave me. And I think we should second guess when the media perpetuates a one-note negative stereotype of certain youth-based subcultures, because honestly, those youth-based subcultures, especially ones, authentic ones, where when kids are growing up in a system and they feel like that system doesn't work for them, there's no bureaucracy or red tape for youth. Youth is the truth. They are going to create a brand new system that works for them, and guess what? Those systems are incredibly powerful for and can be used for social change. So if you're looking for a really good case study on a powerful youth-based subculture, graffiti is a really good case study. So thank you so much for your time. It's been fun. I appreciate it.